as we landed in Costa Rica, I look at my banking app and RBC sent me a message saying, hey, you're the demographic of the people that would support the truckers. So we're shutting down your bank account. It's changed everything completely. And the number one thing it's done for me is realize that I am free. If you want to live on Bitcoin here, you don't need to touch the fiat rails at all. We need you. The next stage of Bitcoin's evolution includes you.
Welcome to the We Are Satoshi podcast. Today I've got the pleasure to interview the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Pooley. Josh and I, we met back, what was it, in El Salvador that we met?
I think we first met in El Salvador and then reconnected in Colombia, which was such a blast too.
So we've seen each other in a couple different countries, and I was just very, very inspired by your backstory, why you guys are building on Bitcoin. So, just give me a little background, man. Like, where are you coming from, moving from South Africa, starting a new life? Just kind of give me a little background of where we're coming from in this conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my whole family's from South Africa. We're heavily involved in food manufacturing out there. And as things were getting a little bit more violent in the late 90s, my dad was like, I need to break away from South Africa and help my family find a new life. So we moved to Ontario. He ended up getting involved in some mortgage, what was it called? In the mortgage business. I forget the exact name off the top of my head. And with that, we started getting a lot more exposure to the financial system. My brother and I took a huge interest into that. And we ended up moving across the coast to BC, right north of your neck of the woods, and ended up being really dissatisfied by how the financial system was working the more we dove into it, and then got orange pilled in 2017 by my dad. And he was like, you guys need to get into Bitcoin. My brother and I were both very much on the entrepreneurship path, like selling rocks, painting rocks and selling them to our neighbors. We ended up starting an OTC network through the Silver Guild in BC. And then as COVID hit, we didn't see a future building in Canada, didn't love the way things were going, and ended up packing up everything, selling our houses, selling our businesses, and moving to Costa Rica, where we have been building Bitcoin community in Costa Rica ever since, and really going all in on, Bitcoin establishment, specifically from the financial side, because we see the problems.
What I mainly take away from that is like, look, Canada lost builders, right? This is something that's happening all over the world, is people that are entrepreneurs, talented, and building. If they're not satisfied with the way that things work in that country, they can just pack up and leave. So Absolutely. Just walk me through the journey. So the OTC desk was the first thing you guys started. And the company's called Pura Vida Bitcoin. Pura Vida and Bitcoin have a lot in common. I don't know if you've been on Nostr much, but you see it everywhere. Man, how's life in Costa Rica? What's the journey been to build to where you're at today? Like, talk a little bit about how all the different initiatives and services that you guys provide kind of come together.
Yeah, absolutely. Costa Rica is beautiful. It's home. I've been here for 4 years now, and Pura Vida is a saying of life around here. It means pure life, and it really is pure life country. But yeah, we moved down here. We're exploring the country at first, and really as soon as our plane hit the ground, we said, like, this is home. This is where we want to build. And then after we hit the ground, we were on Twitter and saw this little startup happening in Uvita called Bitcoin Jungle. And immediately we're like, let's go meet these guys. And we raced down to Uvita. We met Prem and Lee, the founders of Bitcoin Jungle, got involved there, learned a lot about what's happening. And at that time, it was really the founding of the wallet and just getting started. And so we spoke to them and said, like, hey, we want to be a part of this. Do you have any interest in helping us take this to Costa Rica at scale? And one of the developers was like, absolutely, let's do this. And so in partnership with him, Prem, we started Pura Vida Bitcoin a little bit up north. And we've been building a Bitcoin community here in Tamarindo through Potrero area. And we started with Galoy Wallet. We took their open source software. We published this wallet on the App Store, and we handed it out to the little Bitcoin community that was starting up here. And we said, here you go. You got Bitcoin. Go forth and prosper. And the first thing they said was, oh, okay, this is great. Where do I go? How do I spend it? How do I get it? We're like, oh man, maybe building a Bitcoin ecosystem is a little bit harder. And so we integrated with BTC Pay server to allow businesses to accept Bitcoin. And then we handed it to the community and said, okay, now you can accept Bitcoin. And the businesses were like, oh, but we don't know what Bitcoin is. We're like, okay, let's get a sales team together. Let's start educating. Let's have meetups. And then the next question was, hey, where do I sell my Bitcoin? And so, oh, great question. So we built ATM network in Costa Rica that takes Bitcoin and transfers it to colones, the local fiat here, and the other way around as well, where you can buy Bitcoin with it. And from then we started seeing the larger vision, which was not just, hey, we should build a community project. It was, we should build the solution for Costa Rica to adopt the Bitcoin standard. And since then, that has been what we've been developing. We've been connecting with senators, bankers, and like from every level, from government all the way down to the end user, to find their pain points and sell them on the idea of Bitcoin. And yeah, we want the full package solution. So somebody arrives in Costa Rica, they hear about Pura Vida Bitcoin, and they know that they can engage with the entire Bitcoin standard idea if they want to.
Wow. So it's a huge mission that you guys are on. And I love how you just sort of take it in stages, right? It's like you have one idea. Sounds like you were inspired by Bitcoin Jungle. I was there in, I believe it was like March, April of this year. Yep. It is one of the most impressive Bitcoin circular economies that I've ever been to. I went to the farmer's market. We were buying all types of groceries and goods and services with Bitcoin. You can get your hair cut. You can almost all the restaurants accept Bitcoin. Like you just walk into a place and it's like, yep, we accept Bitcoin. And I think what the big thing that I took away from, and I'm curious why this is, and I have theory, but it seemed to me like the local people there really understood Bitcoin. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles is like you guys came across, like, what is this thing? Like, why do I need to care about it? Yep. You also mentioned they have the colone or the cologne. It's a, fiat currency, and, El Salvador, they have the dollar. So a lot of people, they just want the dollar. But in Costa Rica, they have a lot of pain points with the banking system. My theory is that because it's just difficult to deal with the fiat banking system, that people are more open to this idea of Bitcoin. So what do you think made Bitcoin Jungle successful? And what did you guys learn from visiting there and getting involved there?
Absolutely. When we went down there, we had the privilege of being there when they're onboarding their farmers market and like being the first people spending sats at the farmers market. And the thing that I think helped propel them into where they are now, where they are like right on the edge of being a full circular economy, which I thought was like impossible, where you have vendors paying each other and the theory becoming reality. And as you talk about, the banking system is a huge challenge there. But before the banking system, I think they had trust. They were a part of the community. It wasn't just these foreigners coming into the community and throwing a solution at them. It was, hey, where are the pain points? They would know the people's names, know the vendors, and see the struggles they were going through and build relationships with them. So when it came time to go to a feria or a farmer's market and onboard them, there was already that mutual love and connection that we are fostering a community together. And then because they were so early in that Bitcoin community stage, I think so many influencers came down to Bitcoin Jungle. And then when the locals saw the power of Bitcoin and the attention that was getting from everywhere else, it just made them fall in love with it more and made that whole like education piece a lot easier to bridge in Uvita. So that's my opinion before touching on the bank stuff, because I think the banking is an entirely different story down here, but they really had trust.
It's a super good point. In order to really like build something, the trust is like the base layer. It's on top of trust, then you start to build the solutions. I think that's a big takeaway. Like, you're not gonna orange pill someone on day one. What you can do is plant a seed. I always say I'm planting seeds, man. Like even when I'm having conversations just with friends about Bitcoin, it's like, hey, don't buy it. Just maybe buy a little just to like start to pay attention to it. But like my goal is to plant a seed. Eventually you'll get another touch point. Eventually you'll start to see like, oh, somebody else is coming in asking to pay with Bitcoin. And there's a lot of places there, restaurants that have been accepting it for multiple years. There's more than 400 merchants to my understanding, and maybe even more than that. So yeah, man. And so, okay. So you guys, Pura Vida Bitcoin took the wallet, the open source wallet, and adopted it or adapted it for use in different areas. And
Yep.
just from there, what happened? Like, how did it actually start to gain momentum? Because you've told me before we were rolling, just like how many users you have, how many people are actually on board. Like, was there a tipping point? Like, do you feel like you've reached a critical mass of people where like this thing is vibrant and it's just a matter of continuing to add services? Or how do you think about um, just where it's going and where it's at the current status?
Yeah. Yeah. As you said, we took the Blink wallet, or at that time it was the Galoy wallet, and we worked with our team to develop a Costa Rica specific solution, because Costa Rica is just enough that unique that taking El Salvador's blueprint wouldn't work for the locals here. And then have been iterating on it ever since to try to tweak the best user experience for how they understand their banking applications or finance softwares. I don't think that we've reached critical mass yet, but to share some numbers, in our local area here, we've got 1,000 active users, which has just been mind blowing. We've got well over 150 businesses in the area, and I can't even keep up with our sales team or our community. Like, we pretty much every day we're getting texts from our like Bitcoin maxis that are saying like, "Hey, I just orange pilled this business. Go get them." And we're like, "All right, we're booked up until like next Friday. We'll get there as soon as we can."
I love it.
And so trying to keep up with that has been so hard, and then tracking those numbers has been a mission in itself. But I do think we're on the cusp of that knock-on effect or critical mass, where we now have a gas station coming on board. We have a grocery store or a super that's coming on board, and so I've been pushing to get everybody to live on the Bitcoin standard here, and myself and a couple of our sales team have been for the last year, with the little caveat of we need to go to the ATM and pull out cash to go to the grocery store or go get gas. But now that's not needed anymore. Like, if you want to live on Bitcoin here, you don't need to touch the fiat rails at all. They're there if you want to use them. Like, there's those banking connections. And so now part of what we're trying to do is just educate our users, our community, and foreigners as well, to say like, come here, experience it, give us feedback. What do you think is missing? What would be the nice to haves? Because we have the base layer now. It's the Bitcoin standard is here.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, like, I want to live on the Bitcoin standard, but it's not easy, right? There's not places around Seattle. So really the
Mm-hmm.
most transactions that I'm doing with my Bitcoin is when I am traveling to these places. And something that I recommend to Bitcoiners is like, if you're going to take a vacation, go somewhere where you can spend your sats, like go support
Yep.
these places. I don't know Costa Rica's numbers off the top of my head, but tourism is a huge part of their
Oh,
economy. And so
yep.
to be able to even like, we can start talking about interfacing with the government and things like that. There's a lot of discussion with Bitcoin of, oh, it just needs to be a grassroots bottom up movement. I think that's a little bit naive. Like, if Bitcoin is going to become money around the world and be this global currency, we're going to need to get involved at all levels, not just at the community level. So that's one of the things that I really appreciate about what you guys are doing, is like opening the door and having conversations like that. So um, talk to me a little bit about how that's going, and what are your goals, or what are your conversations like at that level, like with the banking elite and the politicians? Like, how are you communicating to them? Is tourism part of it? Is helping their economy grow part of it? Like, just talk to me about that.
Big time. And to start it off, it's frustrating and it's very slow. But
I can
I think that
imagine.
that's kind of, yeah, it's just the way it is. But it's been incredible. There's a number of senators and members of the government that are very excited about Bitcoin, specifically after seeing what happened in El Salvador with Bukele. And they're looking at Bitcoin as a way to adopt it, interestingly enough, potentially to separate from the central banking system, from the influence of Europe and North America, because there is a huge amount of power within the banks in Costa Rica, where on a couple niche cases, the banks have dictated to the government what laws to pass. And in talking with these senators, like, the Costa Rican people need the power. It can't be the bankers. It can't be these people in the ivory towers. And so, in talking with them, we've been able to get involved in a couple bill proposals. One of them, which went to the Senate floor 3 years ago, was about giving Bitcoin the same property right protections as land. which is the highest form of value here in Costa Rica. The government can't just take it away from you. It really is sacred, which I absolutely love. And in the senators that we spoke to, they were very on board with that. Now, where the challenge comes in is things move really slow in Costa Rican government. It's very bureaucratic. And so that bill has been sitting on the Senate floor for 3 years. And there's been a whole lot of negotiating and touching base on it. And they haven't even come to a vote yet. And when we spoke to our contacts, they're like, yeah, it's probably going to be another 3 or 4 years. Which rewind 4 years ago when we started Pura Vida Bitcoin and we spoke with these guys. They said, yeah, you're probably going to look at about 4 years. You can do anything you want as long as it's not illegal. And we're just going to see the adoption case. How does Bitcoin actually solve the problems for the locals? So go forth, go wild. We're watching you. We're watching Bitcoin Jungle. Prove to us that it's going to help us reclaim our power as a people. And then now, more recently, in the last 2 months, we went back to them and they're like, yeah, probably another 4 years because things are moving really slow. And yeah, and then take it to the banking level. The banks here are not excited about Bitcoin. There's a couple of financial institutions that are very pro Bitcoin and are getting banking license approval here, which will absolutely change the game in Costa Rica from being the level that it's at to taking it to the next level where we actually have banking financial institutions pro Bitcoin. But we'll walk into the doors of banks like BCR, Banco Nacional, and talk with their executives. And their number one concern is losing control of the people. Now, they know Bitcoin's inevitable. They know it's coming. And they're trying to find ways to integrate it where they don't lose control of their users, which you and I both know is impossible. And we'll tell them that. And so even with that, their adoption is even slower. I think Banco Nacional recently released a Bitcoin ETF locally in Costa Rica, which was a huge step in the right direction. But man, Kyle, the story of Costa Rica is Pura Vida. And just take it easy. Tranquilo.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. I had a podcast recently where I was, my guest was a guy from Bulgaria, and he said, look, why was Bitcoin first proposed? The ETF was first proposed by the Winklevoss twins in 2013. Why did it take until 2024 to actually become reality? Is because BlackRock had to do it. And so once these banks saw that, hey, they can make a fee on the Bitcoin, now they have an incentive for them to offer this product and also to see the price of Bitcoin increase. So it's a double-edged sword, as they say, right? Because the banks they're going to do everything they can to not lose power. And I don't think banks are becoming obsolete overnight. They're going to have to bend the knee at some point, though, right? You saw PayPal recently adopt or integrate Bitcoin payments. Like you're seeing Square. These things, they do take time, and Bitcoiners understand with a low time preference, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I want to really highlight what you just said, which is there's now a supermarket that's accepting Bitcoin and a gas station, which completely changes the game because you actually can say to people, this is the best place in the world to live on a Bitcoin standard. That's massive marketing for the Bitcoiners around the world. They say like, oh, I could go to El Salvador, I could go to Costa Rica. I'm going to go to the place where it's like a full-on Bitcoin standard. The quality of life there is great. Like I said, I spent 8 days down there, and Uvita's so beautiful. You know, I wake up in the morning, go walk on the beach. It's just a great lifestyle. The people are very friendly too. Like there's no hostility towards foreigners. I find that interesting. Some places, like, oh, we don't want the foreigners coming here, but yeah. So I have a question here. I'm just curious what you would say to this. Like, coming from, Canada, living in places like the more Western nations, like why do you think Bitcoin as a medium of exchange is a hill worth dying on, or like a very important element of Bitcoin adoption, not just as a store of value? It's a general question, but I'm just curious, like what your take is on the importance of using Bitcoin versus just saving in it and using fiat. Like what is it really there?
Yeah, it's such an important question. And if we take it back to Satoshi Nakamoto and his proposal of Bitcoin in the white paper, it was definitely a store of value and a medium of exchange. And I think yes, the store value is incredibly important and probably one of the best sales and marketing tools that we have as Bitcoiners. But without medium of exchange, Bitcoin as a whole isn't what Satoshi intended and what us who are working on Bitcoin are working towards, where you have true freedom. And that's why I think it's a hill worth dying on. Is I've heard people talk about um, you shouldn't use your Bitcoin, just save it for when it's more valuable one day. But you're handicapping the progress of merchants adopting Bitcoin. You're handicapping the Bitcoin businesses that are developing all around the world. And yeah, it's something that I'm personally really passionate about. And as we know, Bitcoin is freedom. And you talk about the banking struggles in Central America. We have the same issues in North America, but we just don't see it the same way. For example, when we moved to Costa Rica, there was the whole truckers protest going on, and we weren't involved with it at all. We didn't donate. Like, go truckers, we love what you did, but we were busy moving houses. And as we landed in Costa Rica, I look at my banking app, and RBC sent me a message saying, "Hey, you're the demographic of the people that would support the truckers, so we're shutting down your bank account." And I was like, "Whoa, that's
Oh man.
crazy." Yeah, and for us, like, we still run businesses in South Africa. We had businesses in Canada, which we'd shut down, but we had people we needed to pay. And if it wasn't for Bitcoin, we would not be here today. But we were able to relocate to Costa Rica with frozen bank accounts. And like this last year, our one business account got frozen again. And it just didn't matter to us because we have Bitcoin. I don't know if that answered your question or if I went on a tangent, but that's why I think it's important.
It's a great point that you just made. When I first got into Bitcoin, I didn't even know what KYC was, and so
Right.
I don't know if you've thought about how they figured out that you were the demographic that would. That's absurd. That's like you didn't
Yeah.
even support it. Even if you did, you should be allowed to. Like, without the freedom to
Yep.
transact, like, what other freedoms do you have? Is something that I subscribe to. Do you
Yep.
think it was the fact that you had purchased crypto or purchased Bitcoin in a KYC manner where the bank had connection to Bitcoin and they knew Bitcoin was being used to support these protests? Is that what you kind of deduced from that, or how did they figure that out?
No, so at the time, I had entirely non KYC Bitcoin. It just the way our OTC desk was working. You had a way you could purchase Bitcoin through silver in Canada. That was all legal and non tracked by the government because it was a commodities, precious metals exchange. Now they've closed that loophole after we figured it out and started doing business through it. So that's not there anymore. But when
Wow.
I got into it, that's how I purchased my Bitcoin. So everything was completely dark. Um, and I think I listened to your podcast with Scott, and what he was talking about, what's going on in Canada. I think that he hit the nail absolutely on the head, where Canada is going in a really dark direction in the political landscape, and they're fighting for control. And I think that in COVID, specifically around the truckers protest, that was where it first showed its head that Canada was really trying to grab control. And they just figured out through my social media or through my
Wow.
bank, KYC, whatever it is, that, hey, this guy is a Caucasian male, early 20s. He's the problem. And then they shut me down.
Wow. That is crazy, man. And so, for someone who's not aware of what exactly happened in the trucker protest, my understanding is that these truckers did not want to get the experimental medical therapy that was being forced upon them. And they are a core backbone of the economy, right? Being able to move goods and services around Canada. It's a massive country. I mean, every single country, right? Truckers are super important. So they realized they had power, completely
Yep.
peaceful. They were not, breaking things or destroying things. They were honking their horns. Apparently, it was the biggest problem that they did.
Yep.
And so people started using like a GoFundMe type of service that got shut down. I forget the name of it. So then they said, okay, we still need to support, we want to support these protests. Let's use Bitcoin. It's permissionless, unstoppable transfer of value. And then the other thing I'll add for someone who's new is KYC. What is it? Know your customer. These are laws that are, the intention is to prevent money laundering. So we need to know who's purchasing Bitcoin or something that can be, moved, value that can be moved without any bank being able to stop it. And yeah, it's crazy. I've met multiple people in my travels going to El Salvador and Costa Rica and different places. Canadians describing leaving their country as fleeing tyranny, like literally. That's the world that we're moving into. And I think that's likely going to come to the US. I think the, rights that we have here are slightly stronger and more ingrained in our laws, like, the right to bear arms, the right to free speech. You could argue that they exist or don't exist to certain degrees, but Australia, Canada, places that don't have those protections are seeing like literally there are people that are, seeking asylum in other countries, especially in Latin America from these places. It is 2025, man. I never thought I would hear a Canadian say I'm fleeing my country. Like, what a world.
It's the best way to describe it. Like while the protest was going on, part of the reason that we left, and I love the word fleeing because it's absolutely true. I think of myself as a refugee from Canada. And I still have a lot of friends out there. I will go back and visit. But I'm so disappointed with the country and everything it could be and everything it's fallen to. And another story I'll give is a family member of mine had a autoimmune challenge, and a friend of ours had the same thing. They got the vaccine and they died the next day due to heart palpitations. And
oh my goodness.
It was just like a really eye-opening thing. And we were a little bit hesitant on the vaccine already. And when we saw that, we went and contacted our local provincial doctor. Her name was Bonnie Henry. We said, hey, Bonnie, like we've got this family member who has this challenge. Can she get an exemption from the vaccine? And I'm going to butcher the wording, so I'm just going to free flow it to make it more dramatic. But she basically said, no, I'd rather this family member die than not get the vaccine. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. My own government hates us so much that they would rather us die, or the chance of dying, right? Mm-hmm. And so 2 weeks later, we were gone. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, and we head out. Like, life is more valuable to us. Like, I want my family around. I don't want to compromise them or anything like that. So anyway, that's
a powerful
the level of
man.
Control. Thank you, man.
I have a story I'll add. I know at least half a dozen people that I would say died as a direct result of the jabs. One of them was a very good friend of mine growing up. I can't remember the connection. It was a friend of my friend's sister, basically. She had 2 kids. One of them was like in kindergarten, and she wanted to be a chaperone for the kids' class. And they said, she lived in Oregon, which is a state south of me. They said, you can't be a chaperone unless you get the vaccine. Right. In her obituary, it says, in her final weeks of life, she refused, like she knew it was not a good idea to get this thing. She had these 2 daughters. I think they were 3 and 5 at the time. She got the vaccine. She died the next day. She was the first documented case of the Johnson & Johnson jab leading to a direct death. It's just horrific stuff, man. And it's like, I think there needs to be, I don't know. I just think that memory holing this thing and not actually talking about these topics is a slippery slope. I think, I had a handful of other stories that are very similar, not just dying, but people that have, I talked to a guy, he's got tinnitus now. He said, look, I have ringing in my ears constantly, lots of different things. So that's powerful that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think what Scott said in that podcast, which I agree with, is that this 2020 like hysteria actually woke a lot of people up. I think a lot of people, I found Bitcoin because they sent me a stimulus check. And I was like, where'd this money come from? So it almost backfired. Like the plan to use this thing to control people actually led a lot of people to value freedom more. Like when people, they say bread and circuses, when they have the bread and circuses and the distractions and entertainment, football on Sundays, life is good. Let's just, work 9 to 5, drink on the weekends and call it a day. Now people had this opportunity where they were home, had the time and the bandwidth to actually like start to take a step back and ask these questions. I am an optimist, and I think if something like that was pulled again, people would not comply nearly at the rate that they did. And even in the US, we had tens of millions of people not, even despite the most aggressive propaganda campaign that I've ever seen in my life, not get the jab. So anyways, I like highlighting this stuff. I don't think it's worth like being scared about it or, not want to talk about it.
Yep.
Let me pivot a little. What's that?
It's just recent history. Like
it's recent. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Totally, man. So let me pivot to, I want to hear, because there's all these circular economies around the world, embryonic circular economies, early stages, that are trying to learn from each other. Bitcoin Beach was sort of the first one in El Salvador. Now you have Berlin, um, Bitcoin Jungle. And the thing, I guess I'm curious, like, what are some of the lessons learned? You talked about like wanting to write some blogs, which I'm excited for those to come out. So people need to follow you and stay in touch, because, and where can they do that, by the way? Like, what's the best way to like just keep in touch with the content that you're going to be making?
Follow us on Twitter, Pura Vida Bitcoin. I have my own Twitter account, but I do not use it. And
Okay.
that would probably be the best place. I've got a personal account on Nostr now. Got onboarded a week ago, and yeah, we're on every social media. So wherever you like to get news, we'll update you on there.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay. Pura Vida Bitcoin. Follow them. Get on Nostr as well. If you're not on Nostr, get on Nostr. If you're a Bitcoiner, you're not on Nostr, you're not a real Bitcoiner. Come on, go send some
absolutely.
sats. Build the world you want to see. So my question is, what have you learned, first of all, and how have you made the projects and the initiatives actually sustainable from a business case standpoint? Like, talk to me just about not just doing things that are, you know, based on donations, but actually building a business and also investing in nurturing the economy beneath that.
Absolutely. It's something I'm very passionate about. Again, my background is entrepreneurship. Before getting involved with Pura Vida Bitcoin, I helped found 4 different companies. My brother's in the exact same boat, and my dad is a serial entrepreneur. I can't even list the amount of businesses he started. And then we talk about the developers and whatever in our team. Like, we're all entrepreneurs, and the business model came first. I think where a lot of Bitcoin projects and specifically Bitcoin communities can get lost is in this grandiose idea of a truly grassroots movement that's just built off of donations, that's just built off of goodwill, which I think is incredibly powerful. Don't get me wrong, that's the right attitude to start with. But when the donations stop flowing through, the excitement dies down, what happens? And so for us, we built Pura Vida Bitcoin from day one to try to be cash flow positive so that we can sustain ourselves, not rely just on our community, not rely on outside investors. We want this to be a Costa Rica business that holds itself up. And from our OTC desk experience in Canada, we brought that right to Costa Rica. And the first thing that we did before releasing the wallet was going to Bitcoin meetups, door knocking, and trying to find people that were looking for Bitcoin and people that had Bitcoin that needed cash, and just doing that basic OTC desk things, buying and selling. And that has been, since day one, has been our number one driver of profitability. And we try to build little profit centers in each of our products. The thing we'll never turn profit on is on the wallet or any peer-to-peer transactions. I fundamentally believe, we all fundamentally believe, Bitcoin should be free. Bitcoin should be available to everybody, and yeah, peer-to-peer should be free. And so we will make our money on the exchange portion. And I recommend that to everybody who's starting a Bitcoin community. You are the nexus point in your community. Everybody's coming to you to learn about Bitcoin. And it just takes a simple question. Hey, if you ever want to sell Bitcoin, let me know and I will find buyers here. And we'd like to charge a 2% fee. We want to take it lower, and you're welcome to put that out there in your own community. And yeah, so anyway, I think the business model needs to be established before you go live with this grandiose idea of bringing freedom money to people. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it absolutely does. Like, you're finding a pain point and actually solving a problem for people, and therefore it makes complete sense that you would charge a minimal fee. But if it's something like an open source wallet, like trying to get in there and be the middleman for a peer-to-peer transaction, I think that actually will deter adoption, right? If people are,
Yep.
if you're coming to someone and say, hey, download my wallet, and they're like, well,
Yep.
what incentive do you have? Yeah, I have no incentive. I just want you to do peer-to-peer transactions and use Bitcoin. That's a much more
Yep.
powerful way to communicate. I think, Bitcoiners having values. This is something that the businesses that I support, that I have affiliate links for, that I promote just in word of mouth in my community, are the ones that have their actions aligned with their values. And
Yep.
obviously there's like, you have to compromise in some ways. Like, I guess, what are some of the ways that you guys have been like, do you have to do KYC on the OTC desk?
For values below $10,000, it doesn't require KYC because you're just exchanging goods. The only time we'll need to do KYC is if it goes through a bank. So we have our banking channels in Costa Rica. If you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you're transacting a lot of money here. It's just tough for us to find a person that's going to give you $100,000 in cash.
Yeah.
So go through a bank. But yeah, Costa Rica's laws around KYC and Bitcoin are very, very friendly. They didn't mean it to be, but right now it's qualified as quasi money, which means it's not really fiat, but it's not really a coconut. And because of that, Costa Rica allows anybody to exchange anything for money, so or for service. So you can pay somebody in coconuts if you want, if that person's willing to accept it. So with Bitcoin, if a business or a person is willing to accept Bitcoin, just treat it as a cash transaction. And so for all of our businesses accepting Bitcoin out there, they report it as cash. Like you can list it as Bitcoin on there. The government doesn't mind. But they just want to know at the point of transaction, how much money did you receive, pay that EVA. So anyway, KYC is somewhat optional until you get to that next level. And one of the things that's been super beneficial with that is we have Bitcoin ATMs here. They're specifically called Bitcoin vending machines because they aren't connected to a financial system. And so they dispense Bitcoin, which I thought was really cute. Our legal team came up with that. And so with that, it's a non-KYC way to buy Bitcoin because it's not connected to a bank. You don't need to report the Bitcoin that you're buying. Obviously, we need to comply with their AML systems where we can't just sell somebody $10,000 in Bitcoin through a Bitcoin vending machine. But yes.
Very cool. So I have a question about just your entrepreneurial journey. What are some of the lessons that you've learned over the years? How has building businesses and being an entrepreneur, like what are some of the skills that you've developed? If someone's curious about this path, maybe they're working a 9 to 5, maybe they're just a young, recent college graduate or something like that. Like just talk a little bit about some of the things that you've learned. How have you approached building businesses? Like what have you learned from your dad? Any just open mic on that topic.
Absolutely. This is my passion. So you'll get me talking about entrepreneurship all day. For me, the most important thing with entrepreneurship is not passion, but discipline. You're going to get this new idea. You're going to be really excited about it and you're going to work 24/7 for the first month. Then you can burn yourself out and you've just lost time and you've lost money. I think it's important to remember that business is a long game. You're not going to get rich quick. And the thing that will separate a good entrepreneur from a great entrepreneur is the discipline. After the excitement's worn down, can you just log into that computer? Can you go take that next conversation? And to further that point, I think one of the keys to success in entrepreneurship is connection. I think people forget how important it is to build relationships. I don't call business, I like to call it the art of business because there's a flair to it. There's a skill to doing business. And a lot of it is doing with that conversation, that human connection, which takes to the next point of development when you get to hiring your first employee. Like that person you need to connect with, that you need to hire them for quality, for an alignment of values and an alignment on the vision. And when you get that right, when you're able to meet with somebody and pull on your network of people, and then you're able to bring somebody on board for that first time that is aligned 100% with what your vision is, you've done it. You've started a business and it's going to last. That's my opinion. Anyway.
That's very powerful. So business is less about, passion, more about discipline. I think that's so true. And also having a longer time horizon, like pretty much anything is possible, any level of success. Like you guys have this ambition to be the go-to business in Costa Rica to live on the Bitcoin standard and to integrate Bitcoin at all levels, real estate, in the banking system and stuff like that. If you had a arbitrary time limit or like a certain amount of runway for you to get there, the failure rate is much higher. But if you have 10 years or 5 years and you're willing to go the distance, and I do think that you need to start with passion, because if you're not passionate, then when things get hard, you're going to give up. Like same thing with podcasting. Like you must enjoy what you're doing. Like even if 2 people are listening to the episode, that's okay if you enjoy the process. But if you're doing it with this idea that, oh, I need to hit certain metrics and numbers, like I have my producer in the documentary I'm doing in Bulgaria has this idea of digit addiction. And it's like, it's one of these ideas, once you see it, you can't unsee it. We're addicted to digits. We want more likes. We want more money. We want more comments, like all these things. And so we associate our value. We get the dopamine hit, things like that. Having the discipline, like to your point, to just open up the computer and move the ball forward. Another thing I like to reference is my buddy's grandpa was a farmer, and he said, never put off till tomorrow what you can do today. I love those like old farmer sayings and things like that. So yeah. And dude, how old are you? You're in your 20s, right?
Yeah, I'm 25. We're young gun.
Unbelievable. So you were born in 2000?
Yes. Yep.
That is so crazy, man. Like when I met you, I was like, this guy is like my age. I'm 31 now. And why, like, you carry yourself in a very professional way, but also, yeah, I want to give you props, man, for I think also your dad should get some props for raising you, because that's
oh yeah, Mark and Felicity, Mr. and Mrs. Pooley are absolute legends, and I learn from them every single day. And my siblings as well, like they're a little bit older than me, so for me, I think that's why I present a little bit older, is I always grew up around these older teenagers when I was a kid, and so I love that. But I want to take it back to something that you said earlier, which was building a business with a runway. And I think circling back to the conversation about cash flow models and whatnot, one of the things that's really concerned me a lot with the crypto space, not Bitcoin, but specifically the crypto space, and I have a lot of problems with it, but they had their ICO in 2017, and then they never created a profitable solution. They never built a business model. They just had this great idea, and then they raised money, and then they're now like starting to run out of funds. And that to me is terrifying. You have all of these L2s on Ethereum and Solana that had these ambitious ideas and just never figured out the business. And I think building on that to Bitcoin, one of the things that I would really encourage people to do is, we're not doing ICOs or initial coin offering for those who weren't around in the 2017 ICO craze. We don't do that in Bitcoin. We build on top of Bitcoin. And there's incredible L2s, layer 2s, tools and layer 3 tools out there. And so I'd encourage people to use them. Like BTC Pay Server is an incredible tool for anybody starting a Bitcoin community. Use it. Don't build your own. Don't like, unless you're really passionate and there's a problem to solve in BTC Pay Server, take these tools that are out there and use it to build a solid business model. And I think there's a lot of lessons we can take away from the Ethereum and altcoin or shitcoin world, and the mistakes they've made. And let's not transfer those mistakes to Bitcoin.
Well said, man. I learned something very similar from a company called Ordermoon in Bulgaria. I thought they were just like a company that allows you to buy food with Bitcoin, get takeout with Bitcoin. And then when I got there, I actually sat down and talked to the guys about what they were building. They said, no, like, we actually saw a gap in the market. We saw a pain point restaurants had with the services being crappy. The takeout delivery fees were super high, and they had to charge 30% more for food, the table reservation. They couldn't set up websites. So what they did is they built a suite of services that actually just were needed regardless of Bitcoin. And then what they did is they put Bitcoin in the background as like, it is still the heart of their business, but it's not how they walk in the front door. It's like, no, they're building a business that's completely unrelated to Bitcoin, except for that Bitcoin is actually part of it. So when they're ready, they can just say, and they build the trust, right? To your point earlier, it's like they just offer a better service. And then over time, when that business is ready and they're aligned and they've studied Bitcoin, then they say, hey, look, just flip a switch and now you're accepting Bitcoin as payment. So it's kind of a good lesson to take away, that there's so many opportunities out there. There's opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. That's a Richard Branson quote. And so just trying to build something, like having, Michael Saylor talks about this, like the idea is already there. Like it's a $400 trillion idea. Like you don't need to come up with a better idea than that. Just build on top of it. So yeah, I'm curious, like for someone who's kind of new to Bitcoin, still trying to figure out the difference between Bitcoin and crypto, you talked about these layers, right? And so describe from your perspective how Bitcoin scales versus crypto.
Right. For me, that's one of the, I don't know, most interesting questions to answer, because the future is so not mysterious, but we're building it as we go. Like in the Bitcoin world, we are building the car while we're driving. And so for those who are new to it, layer one is the Bitcoin on-chain blockchain system. And then you have systems and businesses built on top of the Bitcoin on-chain L1, which we call layer twos, like the Lightning Network. It's an incredible layer two that allows us to transact instantly between two users, where the Bitcoin on-chain transactions might take 10 minutes to verify. You receive that Lightning transaction instantly. And now on top of Lightning, you've got this new thing being built, which is eCash, which is just another phenomenal solution, and a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. And then from these layers, you've got people plugging into those layers. And I'll talk on BTC Pay Server. I'm a big fan of theirs. So with BTC Pay Server, they plugged into the layer two of Bitcoin. They said, we are going to make Lightning transactions available for anybody to receive Bitcoin. You don't need necessarily a Lightning node. You don't need to worry about running all these channels. Amboss is another great one that's plugged into the Lightning system. And they've just made the use case that much easier. And I think that if we can have people plugging into those existing layers and then those plugins that are already in there, the car that is Bitcoin that's being built while we drive becomes indestructible. If you've got people that are going to web designers, or let's use festivals, for example, you go to them and say, hey, I will install BTC Pay Server on your site, allowing you to accept Bitcoin for an installation fee. Free business idea. You're welcome to take it. I think that is incredible, because now we're getting Bitcoin exposure. We've got more entrepreneurs in the space of Bitcoin, and you don't need to design something new. You can just take what's already existing, the incredible creations that are out there, and help release it to the world. I don't know if that all makes sense, or if that was just a rant.
It totally does. And it goes towards why education is so important with Bitcoin, because if you're an entrepreneur, like, it's not everyone's an entrepreneur, but if you are, and you're thinking of like, what can I build? Like, I know Bitcoin's a thing, but if you don't do the education to understand all these different pieces, like, still, I still have a hard time understanding and explaining even Bitcoin mining and Lightning and eCash. Like, I have like a general understanding, but once you start to see all these different pieces, then you can say, hey, look, I can take a piece from here and a piece from here and build something that doesn't exist in my specific community, or whatever it might be. Whereas crypto, it's like every single functionality on these layer twos and layer threes needs to be built on the base layer. And so the trade-off there usually is security and centralization versus decentralization. So, I fell for the same thing. It's like Bitcoin was the first, and therefore there must be a newer, faster, better one. Like, right? It's like, right. No, Bitcoin actually decided, no, we're going to prioritize being money and having that be secure and decentralized. From there, then people can build on top of it. And so Bitcoin scales similar to the internet, not like the internet was built in layers, right? Over time, new functionality was built. Back in the day, before you were born, probably, it was dial-up modem. Like, you would connect to the phone lines to get to the internet. Now it's, you go on your phone, you got, instant video streaming and all these things that I remember the first time that I watched TV on my phone. It was like mind blowing. I was like, no way, I'm watching TV on my phone. This is crazy. So yeah, man, I think understanding, like, doing the work to educate yourself is what's going to empower you, if you are an entrepreneur, to go build the things that you want to see. It's not going to happen overnight. I see a lot of people fall into the trap of like, thinking they're building something unique, and it's actually like, nah, man, like, that already exists, or there's just no need to rebuild it. Yeah.
And a question for you that like I'm always struggling with is, what is the next step in Bitcoin technology, or I don't know, adoption is the wrong word, but how do we help people who are inexperienced in Bitcoin avoid the altcoin trap, where they'll go and do trading, they'll go do like get lost in the altcoin and then be burned by what they think is Bitcoin, but is absolutely not Bitcoin. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's this idea of like mentorship at scale. Like I think personally, if you're not listening to podcasts, you are leaving so much value on the table. Like currently today, like when I was growing up, podcasts didn't exist. Like when you were young, they didn't exist. Now there's builders, smart people, like highly educated experts in all areas that are just putting out information for free. So I do think that everyone has to touch the stove at some point. Some people, if they're lucky enough, they will find the signal through the noise right away. I don't think that's everybody. And it's unfortunate, but just kind of the way things are that, Bitcoin gets associated with these other cryptos and therefore people think Bitcoin's a scam. And I think that's going to continue for a long time. Currently, what I'm seeing is even Bitcoiners, like people that understand Bitcoin, looking to take loans for their Bitcoin, using Bitcoin to, as collateral in these loans. Like, not your keys, not your coins, man. So what I like to do is listen to the people that have been there before, like talk to the entrepreneurs that have built businesses and try and learn through them so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. We also talked a little bit before the podcast, maybe we can get into this, but just, the idea of creating art and things that can resonate with different people. Not everybody's going to resonate with Bitcoin on the same level. For me, it was like, I already knew the Federal Reserve was a private bank and, they're printing money and it's just an absolute theft of people's time and energy. Then when I found Bitcoin, I was like, aha, that's the thing that connects with me. But maybe my girlfriend, she's not going to resonate with that. Maybe a story about a refugee leaving their country and being able to like save their family's wealth is going to resonate with them. Human Rights Foundation does a newsletter that's fantastic. I hear a lot of stories through them. I've met people where like there's call it 500 or 1,000 different things that might resonate with you about Bitcoin. And it's not one size fits all. And so I think the most important thing, if you are somebody who's trying to orange pill somebody else, or you want to spread the message, is plant a seed of curiosity. Don't try and like bring them. No one's going to be like from 0 to 1 in one conversation. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But if you plant the seed and you leave them with an emotion, that's, I think, the most important thing. Is one of the reasons why I'm making the film. Is like I want somebody to watch this film and be like, man, these people are having fun. Looks like a party. Like maybe I should look into this.
Absolutely. And I think art is so important. I mean, culture is built on art. It's not just built on business or finances, which is why I like to refer to business as the art of business, because I do think there's a flair to it. But I think we need painters, we need cinematographers, we need storytellers to come out here, write songs and put something out, because you never know who's going to resonate with it, as you said. And I think there's something really powerful, more powerful in the storytelling of art than just a conversation, because people take away from it something that's important to them. And we talked a little bit earlier about finding a problem and then solving that problem. But as we have a conversation, I don't know the problems that you're dealing with. I can't just hone in on, Kyle, you're going to connect with Bitcoin on this specific issue. But now if I create a film and I show people living their lives in Bitcoin, I show incredible adoption, all of a sudden I resonate with one piece of that film, and that impacts me a whole lot more than a conversation. And I also think there's something really powerful about art to existing Bitcoiners. Like you talk about the guys back in 2010, that the early adopters, man, they've been in the space a long time. It's hard to stay motivated to keep pushing the envelope, keep spreading the orange pill. But now you see a beautiful painting or hear a song that rekindles that fire of why you got back into, or why you got into it in the first place. I think it's so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having a very deep purpose is what's going to get you to like get through the hard times, especially Bitcoin bear markets, right? I went through one in the last couple of years, and that's when I was like fully orange pilled, right? It's very easy to get into Bitcoin when it's bull market mania. But that's why when Bitcoiners meet each other, they say, hey, when did you get into Bitcoin? Bitcoiners will not ask you how much Bitcoin you have. They don't care.
Right.
But they do want to know, have you been through a bear market? Because they know that your conviction is strengthened when you go through watching your wealth decrease significantly over a period of time. And the people that hold and that build through those periods of time are the real ones, So
absolutely.
Yeah, to your point about art, like I'm I'm sort of this balance of like creativity and business. And I subscribe significantly to building a business is a creative act, and that the schooling system and the way that we're raised, it trains creativity out of us. I've said this before on a podcast, but I was in a business class in college. The teacher said, raise your hand if you identify as creative. And not one person, including me, raised my hand. I had been psyoped into thinking that I was not creative. Ridiculous. Right. Like every single one of us is creative. We all create them. Like after this, I'm going to go make some steaks. I'm going to create that meal. I'm going to create the route on my bike ride. Like creativity is like what makes us human beings. And it's, for me, it's what Bitcoin has given me, is this opportunity to tap back into that like deep purpose and that desire to create. Like what makes us human is this sense that like through our actions, we can build a better world in the future. If we did not have that wired into us, we would not exist as a species. I think this is what absolutely one of the core things about humanity. So art is hugely important, and making Bitcoin beautiful, and not just having the number go up be the best marketing, but showing people what it's like to live in this world, I think is very positive. So talk to me a little bit about how your life has changed. Like, how do you see the world differently? How do you spend your time and energy? How has Bitcoin changed your life? Just a general one there. I'm always curious what you have to say about that.
Man, it's changed everything completely. And the number one thing it's done for me is realize that I am free. I talk about financial freedom, and one of our goals with Pura Vida Bitcoin is allowing people to access financial freedom here in Costa Rica. And there's people doing it all around the world. And as soon as you get financially free, you own your money, you know how to use it. And going back to the reason of why not spending your Bitcoin, but the medium of exchange is important, is we need that ability to transact between each other. I want to be able to fly to Belgium and Ireland and be able to interact with that economy. And the first time I had my eyes open to how financially free I was with that fleeing from Canada, where I realized that nobody had power over me. People couldn't say no. People couldn't control me. And I talked to a lot of my friends in Canada and the US that haven't adopted Bitcoin yet. And I feel so hamstrung to their location. Like my bank, I can't just pick up and leave. I've got my house, all of these things. And for me, if Costa Rica was to go south overnight and there was a dictatorship that moved in here, I know that tomorrow I can pick up everything, fly to somewhere, and I can restart like that. And I think that for me, fundamentally, freedom is the biggest blessing that Bitcoin's given me. And what about yourself? What has Bitcoin done to change you?
Man, I love throwing questions back my way. Well, I mentioned the creativity thing because I gave up on the idea of filmmaking. Like after college, I got into filmmaking. I picked up a camera, and eventually I came to the conclusion, I'm like, I'm running on a hamster wheel. Like I'm never going to be able to have a family and build wealth and these things. And so I pursued businesses, which I was passionate about. I started a company called Earthy, and our whole thing was like bringing transparency to the supplement industry. The problem that we saw is that the supplement industry is extremely shady, to say the least. I'll tell you this. I was at a company. I was the fourth employee there. So small business. And we found out, my co-founder and I found out, that what was on the label, what we were telling people was in the product, was not in the product. And there were actually ingredients in the product that were not on the label. So I learned firsthand, like there's no regulation. It's like, literally, you can go in your garage, throw some stuff in a bag, call it a supplement, and sell it. And so it's
horrifying
here. It really is. And so that was our mission there. So I had a deep passion about that, but I knew, deep down, if I wasn't doing this, I would do something with Bitcoin. And so, I think in the last 18 months, I decided I wanted to allocate my time and energy towards the Bitcoin space, and it's opened my mind. Like I can't even think about how many different ways. Homeschooling, for one. Like I always thought, I can't homeschool my kids. They're not going to be social. Like the weirdo kids are homeschooled. I met this guy named Daniel Prince and his family, his kids. I had conversations with them in Bulgaria last year. I've seen them in Prague. These kids are like it's like talking to you, except they're 13 years old. Like they can hold a conversation with adults. And so like things like that
Cool.
inspired me. Now I'm going down all sorts of different rabbit holes. I'm not there yet, but just like stuff, that makes you like things that you just assume, like what's the shape of the earth? I'm not
Right.
gonna say I'm like on the flat earth thing yet, but I'm like, I'm open-minded and I'm like, I don't know, like what is this reality? Like another big rabbit hole I've gone down is just this like ethereal realm. Like what is consciousness? Like how, like if we can only see this narrow spectrum of light, then what else is going on in this universe? I think
Yep.
there's so much more being aware of EMFs. I think
Yep.
the biggest thing in the last year though, and I'm just like rattling off various things, but the light, like you see me wearing these glasses. I didn't
Yep.
used to wear these glasses. I was a full-time video editor and I was losing my eyesight actually. Like I
Oh,
remember I went skiing one day, like I was working 40 hours a week in front of a screen with no protection on my eyes. And the whole day of skiing, my eyesight was blurry. And so last year I came across Dr. Jack Cruz, if you know who that is.
I don't
And
know.
oh man, well I'm gonna point you in his direction because I mean you live in Costa
Okay.
Rica, so you have this natural sunlight quite often. I can see it's
Right.
coming in the window right now. For
Yep.
me, I was always a sunglasses and sunscreen guy. I'm very fair skinned from
Yep.
Northern Europe heritage. And so my mom used to lather us up with sunscreen. And, I thought the sun was like hurting me or might cause cancer or something like that. I would wear sunglasses. My eyesight, basically, like when I wouldn't wear sunglasses, like my eyes would hurt. I would, like it was too bright for me just to go outside. And so now I've just stopped wearing sunglasses, stopped wearing sunscreen, put my feet on the ground, get some
Yep.
natural sunlight. It's like the best things in life. The best medicine in life is out there for free. And
Yes.
this whole thing of wearing sunglasses, I think EMFs, like a lot of this stuff is going to eventually be seen as the cigarettes of our time. So
Yep.
I think, it's changed my approach to health. How I spend my time, how I show up in my relationships, just being more present, not being so like, man, I've had like holidays where I'm just like working and like sacrificing like the most important things, which is time with
Yep.
family and things like that. So, yeah, I'm all over the place on this answer, but it's changed my life in a lot of ways, and you
Yeah.
never know what might come next.
Well, it's such an interesting thing because it seems like the orange pilling, or not even orange pilling, the interest in Bitcoin leads to interest in a lot of things. And I completely identify with what you're saying about being open minded and not closed to things. I've got a friend who is, I wouldn't say he's a flat earther, but questioning the Earth's shape. And I default to round Earth theory because it's all I know, and it makes it a little bit easier with my heuristics. But to hear the questions that he's raising, I love it. And it makes me dive deeper into my own understanding and question myself because I don't know the answer. Like sunscreen was a big one. Moving down to Costa Rica, like you put on a lot of sunscreen, and then after getting into Bitcoin, I started questioning like, what is this? What am I putting on my skin? And to see all the oils and whatnot, I was like, this is not good for me. And so I think there's almost this natural journey from getting into Bitcoin to caring about your own health and caring about creativity and caring about um, what's actually important in the world. Because it isn't just work. It isn't just pleasing somebody else. Like there's something beautiful in Earth, and we get to experience it, and hopefully experience it the right way, where we don't lose our eyesight and can enjoy the beauty of the world. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know something's killing you, then you're not going to take action to change it. And if you don't have the time to go down these rabbit holes because you're just constantly on the fiat hamster wheel, then yeah, you're just going to be, like I said earlier, just kind of doing the 9 to 5 thing and slowly just like one thing that I find some hypocrisy with Bitcoiners is when a Bitcoiner is not healthy. I'm like,
right.
man, treat your health like your stack. Your health is actually your most like it's the most important thing for me. I have health as my number one priority. And I think aligning your actions with your values is very critical. When I'm out of alignment on those things, when I say my number one priority is health, but then I'm sacrificing that to do whatever it might be, like that's time for me to reevaluate that and say, like, are my actions aligned with my values? Another one recently was like, okay, my values are freedom and sovereignty and, people's willing, like part of freedom and sovereignty is that ideas who you don't like are going to be able to express their ideas. And so I was going to be filming with a conference in Portland, and they banned one of the speakers who I had met recently in Prague from speaking because of his social media posts. And they call themselves Bitcoin is for everyone there in Portland. And I thought, Bitcoin is for everyone. Literally, the organizer of the conference says Bitcoin is for everyone, but the conference is not. And I said, okay, like I'm not going to film for you guys. I'm not going to add value to your thing. So I had to decide, like, am I going to give up this opportunity to go meet Bitcoiners and do what would provide me value, is networking and these things, connecting with Bitcoiners. But my principle is freedom and the right for everybody to say what they want, even if it's like what I don't necessarily agree with everything this guy was saying, but I value his freedom to say it. So I think we're going to have a lot of these conflicts over time where, people just have to really ask themselves, like, are you willing to, this world that we're moving to, if it's this world of freedom, are you willing to accept the good, the bad, and the ugly along with that? The other thing I'll mention, just while it's on my mind, is the carnivore diet. I'm going to say it here, man. I'm starting the carnivore diet today. I'm going to do a month and just see how I feel. I've taken vegetables mostly out of my diet, but I still eat bread and some pasta and stuff. And so, yeah, I just want to go full carnivore and see how it feels. Like, that's another one of those ideas. It sounds absurd. You need fiber, you need carbs. Like, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to try it. So,
I think there's something so interesting about nutrition. I'm so passionate about it, and every person is different. Like, you can't just say, hey, this one diet fits all, works for everybody. It's just not the case. Like, the best I've ever felt in my life was on the keto diet. I used to play a lot of rugby, and while I was on the keto diet, I had the best season of my life. I need to get back on it, but meat's expensive, so we'll circle back to that. But like, recently I did a 4-day water fast, and first time I've ever done it, and it was incredible. Like that.
Wow.
I think what you'll experience with the carnivore diet is that mind-body connection to food and to our bodies, where when I did keto, I just felt the nutrition. I felt like the lack of carbs or the lack of sugar that messed with my brain. I felt the energy like extending, and then I felt that again when I did the water fast, and I just opened my eyes back up to the beauty of food, and I ended up sleeping really well. And it just shows me how much processed food or processed things are in our food, and how much it hurts us. Like, anyway, I'm really excited about you doing the carnivore diet. I think it's going to change a lot for you, even if you don't stick to it forever. Like, if you just do a month, I think you'll start experiencing the benefits, and I really want to hear how that ends up going. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, the other thing that I've recently started doing is red light therapy. So I mentioned the glasses company. It's called CHROMA. Kyle 10 gets you 10% off. I'll just say it right now. They sent me a device. It's like a red light therapy device, and I've been using it on my joints, my knees, my hips. And amazing. I don't know, man, I've been using it for like 3 days, and already I go on a bike ride and I feel like my knees feel way better on this bike ride. So I never would have come across these guys. I met them at a Bitcoin conference. They're Bitcoiners. They accept Bitcoin. You can buy their products with Bitcoin. So yeah, just lots of different rabbit holes to go down. You can't go down all of them, but I think it's one at a time, slowly adjusting. And to your point about the mind-body connection, I used to be, as I've gotten older, I've actually become more in tune with my body. When I was younger, I would just eat candy and eat crap. And when you're young, it's like your body still functions great, even when you're eating like crap. Now I'm like, okay, when I eat something unhealthy, like I notice it and I have more connection. I recognize, like, why am I sleeping poorly? Or on a mental health side, like if I'm having bad dreams or if I'm stressed about something, like that'll show up in like a subconscious way. So addressing those things, as men, we like to bottle things up and not address the actual root cause of the issue. But yeah, I don't know, man. Do you have any takes on mental health practices or just your journey with mental health? I used to ask every single episode at the end, what's your journey been with mental health? But I'm curious if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, I'm still early in my mental health journey, I think. And I'm not going to be the best example because I am very much a workaholic. I love what I do, and I'm going to work those late nights. But I've definitely been burnt out a couple of times, and like the recovery from that burnout was painful. And then also a couple of years ago, I ended up fracturing my spine, and that journey downward of like lack of physical health, lack of ability to do things, really took a toll. And I don't know if I have any tricks to mental health other than get a full night's sleep. That makes everything a lot easier. And make sure to eat good food. But I think it's discipline. Like I I try to see the beauty in the world, and I think that that's a choice. I think that we can get really dark and we can get overwhelmed, especially in my case. That's where I fall awry most of the time, is just getting overwhelmed. There's too much input, and we can make that choice to take a step back, to go for a walk, and um, yeah, allow our brains to breathe and then get back to it, and practice that intentionally. And there's a book that I read recently, and I there's so many times in this conversation that I think it would fit in really well, and it's called "Steal Like an Artist." And one of the things
Oh,
it talks about,
Austin Kleon.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
fantastic book. And one of the things that resonated so strongly with me was his note on walking and how our brains clear when we get outside, we breathe fresh air. The first thing we should do is get sunlight. And um, he had a quote in there, and I'm going to butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, when our body moves, creativity runs. And I 100% feel that when I'm getting overwhelmed, when I get stressed, I just go for a walk, and it makes everything a whole world better. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any mental health tips for me? Because I'm open for anything you got.
Well, I would say getting the late nights on the computer, I've basically stopped doing that. I used to just be like, hey, if I have the energy, I'm going to stay up late and I'm going to get more stuff done. Actually, the discipline to say, nope, I'm going to turn this thing off. It's 9 p.m. The sun went down an hour ago. I keep my Wi-Fi off at night. I keep my phones away from me. I don't charge my phone right next to me while I'm sleeping, things like that. But for me, yeah, it's having tools in your tool belt. We're all different,
Yep.
but there are things that are universal. And getting outside, even if it's cold out, even if you don't want to go out, like you go outside. Like today, I went before this podcast. I just walked to the grocery store. I got my coffee and I walked back. I could have driven, but I knew that like just getting the blood flowing. For me, it's the bike. I wrote an Instagram post about this years ago, but sometimes when you wake up in the morning and you have this long list of long list of tasks to do, it can feel overwhelming. I totally get that. But it's recognizing what you're feeling and then having a tool or a resource or something to actually to mitigate that. And so what my tool is exercise, specifically outside. Like if I go to the gym, maybe I'll get a good pump going, but I kind of think the gym's a shitcoin, to be honest with you, because you're in there in the artificial light. I'm way more a fan of being outdoors. That's why for me, the bike is the way to go. And by the time I get a couple pedals in, all that stress is gone. And then I can come back to my day and not be stressed out, I guess. Yeah. That's what
there's something, I love it. Exercise is so important. And there's something that you touched on there, which is the lack of stressors. Like try to decrease the stressors, and bringing this conversation back to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin solves a lot of stress factor. And especially in Costa Rica with financial stressors. And we were talking a little bit earlier about banking issues. Like the amount of physical dread I have walking into the bank to withdraw cash because they want to know my blood type, my firstborn son, which doesn't exist. And like trying to explain those things is so aggravating to me, where I know with Bitcoin, this isn't needed. And to highlight the difficulties of banking here in Costa Rica and why Bitcoin solves it and why it takes this pain point or stressor away is we have bank days here in Costa Rica where when I want to go withdraw funds, I go to the bank at 9 a.m. as soon as they open, and I wait in line for the entire day. And I've had it before where I will wait in line outside, out in the sun, and I do not get inside the bank to withdraw the funds. So I need to come back again the next day. And every single minute second that I spend in that bank line drives me insane. And so, and then when you get in there, they don't want to address your problem. Like here, if you receive funds from your own personal account overseas, they will ask a laundry list of questions every single time you go in because they just want to make it a little bit more difficult to take your funds out and just control you that little bit more. And Bitcoin stops that. And so like to to this day, I haven't been to the bank in nearly a year now, living on the Bitcoin standard. And that has removed that stress from me completely. And every person that I can onboard, and not just onboard, but like push towards that Bitcoin standard, because it is a big leap from getting into Bitcoin to trying to live on it. And there's a whole bunch of challenges with it, but they will also speak about the time saved, the lack of stress that they avoid from not interacting with Costa Rica's bureaucratic, painful banks.
I love that you tied it back to Bitcoin. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really try, for me at least, like not having a second job of being an investor is, it just opens up your life so much. Like if you live in the fiat world, like you work 9 to 5, you pay your taxes, and then after that, you have to decide, where am I going to put this money so that I'm not stolen from through debasement? Like you're trying to outpace, they say it's 2% inflation. It's not. Like if you look at the M2 money supply, it's 6, 7, maybe more percent per year. So 7% of your money is being stolen every single year. And in order to beat that, you need to take risk. You need to spend time studying different businesses, figuring out where to allocate your money. I used to sit on there and I'm going to put this much money in this stock and here and there. And like Bitcoin has just removed all that. And it's let me get back to just living my life, which then you have more time to spend time with your family, work out, build things that you want to see in the world, start a podcast. Like it is such a beautiful thing to just like basically give up that second job. So yeah, it's
make a film in Europe. I mean, that's another beautiful thing that I don't think we've talked enough about. Like what you're talking about documenting there and the things you experienced, I think is so cool. And as you say, you wouldn't be able to get out there and actually give back to the world without Bitcoin and the freedom that it brings. I don't know. Like, I would love to hear more about this this film and what you've been working on. Like, feed it to me, please.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I'll share a little bit. I never would have made, I actually probably never would have gotten back into filmmaking if it weren't for Bitcoin, but I definitely would not sign up to make a film that has the amount of risk, right? Like, I just know that everything I've saved to date in Bitcoin is secure and safe, and therefore I can take risks. And I encourage other people, like, once you have FU money, do something with it. Like, take a risk, you know, like that's the gift that you've been given. Like, for me, it's making this film this year. And yes, I am like, you know, contributing something that I think is the best use of my time. And while I was talking to my girlfriend last night, like finances are very stressful, right? Like that's why I'm encouraging her to like understand Bitcoin, because I do complain about not having much cash at certain times and paying my taxes and all this stuff. But I know long term I'm safe and secure, and therefore I can make different decisions in my life. I can take a long time horizon. I haven't had a job since 2021. Like I still work for fiat clients. And I still, you know, earn fiat. But yeah, it's as far as the film goes, man, like, so basically my first Bitcoin conference was Sofia, Bulgaria, which is like a random place to have your first Bitcoin conference, but it just was the way the universe worked. And I like to try and live in alignment with the universe, not to get too woo-woo, but when I'm seeing synchronicities, when doors are opening, like that's how I know I'm on the right path. And so I made some friends there in Bulgaria. They're very down to earth people, just really like cool people there, I guess you could say. And Bitcoiners are like that everywhere, but specifically in Bulgaria, I resonated with those people quite a bit. They showed us around, like, I went to the conference and then I had a couple days to explore. Like we went to this place called Rila Monastery, beautiful monastery up in the mountains of Bulgaria. And one of the guys it was my third guest on my podcast, his name's Ivan Makedonsky. The podcast is all about permissionless work, just doing permissionless work, not asking for permission, just literally doing things that you want to see in this world. There's a meme in Bitcoin. It's like, you can just do things, right? And so he inspired me like, hey, if you want to get more into this Bitcoin space, like just do stuff. So for me, it's creating content, because that's the skill set that I have. It's like clearly aligned. I can add value. And he reached out to me in December and asked me if I wanted to make a film telling the story that brings together all the different initiatives in Bulgaria into one story. And so the people in the story are why I'm making the film. Like, being able to tell a story that's never been told. There's plenty of films and documentaries in El Salvador and Costa Rica. I don't need to go there and retell a story that's already been told. It's incredibly inspiring for me just to be able to be the person who's telling the story for the first time. It's a big obligation. I was pretty stressed out going into the like production. I was like, man, I don't know, like, am I going to make a good film? Is this like, what are we going to do? How is it going to come together? And, you know, now I'm in the editing phase. I'm extremely happy with what we have shot so far. 25 days in Bulgaria, just traveling all over the country, meeting lots of different people. And it's not just like community stuff. It's like people mining Bitcoin off grid with their solar energy, people starting businesses, like I mentioned, Order Moon, and learning from them and how they're building on Bitcoin. Just basically like crowdsourcing all these different perspectives to understand like how all these different people can contribute. Ultimately, the main goal of the film is to inspire hodlers to become builders. One hodler or 100 hodlers is one builder. Another thing that Ivan says is like, he's the producer. Ivan, he says, look, if you bring two people in fiat together and you have them try and build something, 1 + 1 = 2. But in Bitcoin, 1 + 1 = 11. So when we connect, like, this is why it's so valuable for you. You were talking about Evelyn being a super important and inspirational person from Berlin. Like, when we share information and resources and we build in layers, like, we're actually like exponentially building. It's not just like, oh, my efforts are here and your efforts are there. It's like, no, our efforts actually connect. So that was one of the biggest takeaways I had from the film, is just how each of our actions collectively has an impact. Like, we are all Satoshi, right? And I subscribe to that very deeply. Some people think it's cliche. I don't. The podcast is called We Are Satoshi because we all have a gift to bring to the world. Bitcoin allows us to do that. And so, yeah, man, I'm going back to Bulgaria in October. I'll be speaking at the conference there. It'll be my first time speaking at a Bitcoin conference, like pinching myself because I never, like, I was just the guy holding the camera like a year ago. Now I have an opportunity to speak and share my perspective. So that's super exciting. And I'm hoping to have the film done by the end of the year, if not early next year. So I'm just like chipping away at it. Just 2 days ago, I made it through the first round of like reviewing all the footage, 25 days of footage, 5 terabytes. It's like over 100 hours of video. And it took me over a month just to get through reviewing it once, clipping things out, organizing everything. And so I'm taking a step back, having a conversation with Ivan tomorrow. We're going to think through like, okay, how do we tell this story? How do we piece this thing together? I've got some ideas, but still it's still coming together. So that's kind of where it's at, man.
It's so cool. And first, you're going to do an incredible job, like following your work over the last year, and how it's evolved has been amazing to see. And for anybody, if this is the first time you're seeing Kyle's work, go to his YouTube channel, check out his videos there. He is a fantastic creative mind, and the way you see the world and you capture things is so interesting. Like, I watched you work at the Bitcoin Colombia Medellin conference, and even just capturing people on stage and capturing the moment, the lessons. I felt like the way you were able to articulate the message through film was really exceptional. So you're going to knock this out the park, and I'm so excited to watch it. And
Appreciate
the other thing dude, of course. And the other thing you touched on that we've touched on a little bit in this podcast, but I think we need to make it like especially highlighted for Bitcoiners out there, is do things. You don't need to do a lot. Like, we need you. The next stage of Bitcoin's evolution includes you. It takes just a Satoshi. Go to a place and buy a coffee with like $2. And it's something that I'm trying to encourage our local community here is, you don't need to necessarily build a project on Bitcoin, but just support them. Just encourage them and like give somebody a pat on the back, send them a message, and be a part of what's developing, because we are so flipping early in the Bitcoin world, and Bitcoin is inevitable, but it needs you to take it to that next step. And like, Evelyn is a hero of mine. We talked about her, what they did, and they didn't ask for permission. They didn't say, oh man, I really wonder if the banks and the government are going to like us doing a Bitcoin community up in the mountains. They said, this is a problem. I need to fix it. And they took it there. And yeah, we stay in irregular contact, but every time we message or are able to see each other, like, it is just always so eye-opening. And I love what they're doing up there.
Yeah, man. We all have so many different ways that we can contribute. Even just writing one article. I've written a few 2
Yes.
Bitcoin articles. I just wrote them for friends and family because people would ask me about Bitcoin. I just want to, instead of have to type out a whole message, just send them a link. And now there's tons of resources out there. Like, go find what resonates with you and curate it, right? Austin
Yep.
Kleon, steal like an artist. Like, you don't need to come up with the idea and have everything be groundbreaking. I think a lot of people get discouraged because they feel like,
Yep.
what do I have to add to this conversation? But the process of sourcing different things, bringing things together, I think there's, just do what lights you up, and
Yep.
yeah, spend your satoshis. Get the sats
Right.
flowing.
And
Yeah,
make sure
yeah.
you're
So
earning in it too. I think we need to be earning Bitcoin to spend it. I'm not going to go to somebody who's a hodler and say, give up your stack to support this Bitcoin economy. Instead, let's build ways that people can earn and then contribute to the economy. That's why we put the Bitcoin ATMs or vending machines here, is to allow people to earn fiat, turn it into Bitcoin, and then go support the economy and to have the easy on ramp. And like, again, steal the idea. If you want to integrate Bitcoin, BTC Pay, or other payment services into websites, that's a huge niche that needs to be filled right now. And I think that there's a really good market for people to hit on, earn that Bitcoin, and then go to your local Bitcoin community. I don't care how small it is, just start some sats flowing in that economy, and it will change your life. Um, yeah, it's just so many thoughts, and I could talk about that for days, but I think it's so important.
yeah, man. And just to circle back to a circular economy, it only takes 3 people, right? One person earns the Bitcoin or acquires the Bitcoin in some way, spends it for a good or service, and then that person needs a place to then go spend that Bitcoin again. And then if those
Yep.
sats can make it in a circle, it only takes 3 people. It's not like this big, you don't need to build an entire economy on Bitcoin right away. Even in Bulgaria, like, they've got 21 restaurants in Sofia, and Ordermoon says, look, that's enough. Because if you onboard a merchant and nobody goes to buy anything from them in Bitcoin, then 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, they won't be accepting Bitcoin anymore. But if there's
Yep.
this 21 restaurants and there's enough community there to support those businesses, I also think it's a good thing that only 1% of a restaurant's income is in Bitcoin in these early stages, because that means that they don't have to worry about, hey, if I accept Bitcoin as payment, how am I going to pay my costs for my business?
Yep.
Restaurants have a lot of costs. Like, we talked to an Indian guy, actually has an Indian restaurant in Bulgaria. He's accepting Bitcoin.
Cool.
He's just hodling
Let's
it
go.
for now. But we asked him, like,
Yep.
what would it mean for you to actually be able to buy your ingredients with Bitcoin? So if you can be strategic, and this is another thing they talked about at the Learning Bitcoin conference in Vancouver, is go to a coffee shop. If they're onboarded to Bitcoin, then think, how can we onboard the places that they can buy from? So you create an
Yep.
actual circular economy. The number one best way to like get Bitcoin is to earn it, because you just cut out the whole fiat middleman in the first place. So
Yep.
if you're a service provider like myself, I offer video services. I offer a discount if you pay me in Bitcoin, and it's more than the,
Yep.
the spread on buying the Bitcoin, because I get non KYC Bitcoin. It's incredibly valuable to me. So
Yep.
yeah, accept Bitcoin as payment, spend your sats. Yeah.
There's something I'm so excited to share, and I can't believe I forgot about it.
Yeah.
So you talk about circular economy, and I think the step before circular economy is vertical integration, not necessarily
Mm.
within your own business, but within your um, supply chain. And we have a lot of businesses onboarded in the area, and now what we're doing is reapproaching them and trying to connect the dots and say, hey, this bakery accepts Bitcoin. Why not supply this bar with your bread? And then they can pay you with Bitcoin. They're accepting Bitcoin from their users. You get a little bit of a vertical integration there, with the caveat of, why should they pay you in Bitcoin if you're charging normal rates? And so we go to all of our
Mhm.
businesses, and we have a lot of businesses, so it's taking a little while, but we're going to all of them and saying, offer at least a 10% discount in Bitcoin. Because otherwise, why am I spending my Bitcoin? The hardest money on earth, the best
Incentivize
money
people
on
to
earth.
spend the sats. Yeah.
Exactly. And one of the things and the reason I got so excited is we have our first like vertical integration that needs that finishing cap, but we have a bar who accepts Bitcoin, pays their brewery in Bitcoin, and the brewery gives them a discount, and the bar gives the customer a discount. And then the baker at the end of the chain is connected to the brewery and the bar, and
Wow.
supplies both of them with bread. And so you have this little economy or vertical integration happening. And what we're trying to do now is onboard farmers so that bakery can go and pay the farmer in Bitcoin, and then the cycle starts again. And that's that first step of that Bitcoin circular economy. And to talk a little bit about the reason for the incentivization of Bitcoin here, it's not just the non KYC Bitcoin. It's not just Bitcoin increases that people will offer the discounts. Here in Costa Rica, the banking fees and the credit card fees are outrageous. It starts at 2% if you're using an illegal credit card processor, but the bar that accepts Bitcoin, they were getting charged about 15% in credit card processing fees, banking fees from accepting credit card payment to the funds landing in their account. They were charged 15%. Now with Bitcoin, they get charged next to nothing. And so they're able to pass that on to the customer. And so they give them a 10% discount. And the bar is still saving 3 to 5%. So it's a win for them. It's a win for the customer. And then it's the same thing with the brewery. They in Costa Rica, there's a set transfer fee between bank accounts, even if it's domestic or within the same bank, which is outrageous to me. But because they can trade with each other in Bitcoin, they can pass on that discount, and then prices start coming down. It's just Bitcoin solves the world, man. And this vertical integration, I'm so excited because it's the first we got. And I'm looking to create a lot more.
I love that story, man. That is super cool. Yeah, I definitely should have mentioned that right at the beginning of the podcast, but we'll put it in the highlight reel.
Perfect.
No, awesome conversation, bounced all over the place. I love it. That's what it's all about. And my biggest takeaway is just like learning from you, like how you guys are building Pura Vida Bitcoin. And I'm just very bullish on your personal journey as an entrepreneur. You're young, and we're very lucky to have you on the team, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been such a great conversation, and just great to see your face and be able to catch up as well. Very excited for your film.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the support. It means so much to me just to hear that positive feedback. And I'll see you in El Salvador, man. We'll hang out there.
Yes, we will. All right, man. Thank you very much, and we'll chat soon.
Sounds good, man.